Hello, welcome to this e-scouting video. My name is Daniel Gillette. I am an avid hunter. I've hunted out of state for a few seasons now. I've hunted Arizona, Colorado, and Wyoming out of state. And this year I'm fortunate enough to have drawn a tag in New Mexico for mule deer and archery season, and also in Montana. I'm starting off here with Google Earth. I erased all my database, so we're going to go through everything start to finish, how I build my data to transfer to Onyx, and then how I further use Onyx to eliminate places. So one of the things that I use in here is a topo map. So here's a topo map layer that I used with Google Earth, and it is free to use, and it's real simple. All right, so I have the Earth Point topo set up on here, but we're going to turn it off for now. Let's get the unit boundaries. All right, so I just made a generic search, New Mexico unit battery KML, and right here is the shape file. All right, the next bit of information that we're going to look for that's going to lead us to a website that has a bunch of public information is cattle grazing. I'm looking up cattle grazing KML. There's a bunch of different search terms that you could play around with to find this. If you look through forums and whatnot, you could see cattle grazing allotments, KML, and rock slide. So this is the website. All right, so here it is. So we'll download this one here, and this is all across the country, all the cattle grazing agreements, and we will show you all more later when we import this into Google Earth. Next is burns. You can just look up burn, and there's burn area boundaries. There's a variety of them. Uh, I'm just gonna download one generic one, but to me though, this is a very handy layer in Onyx. I don't always download this one here. All right, to put these layers on Google Earth, you just need to import them, or you could drag and drop, whichever you want to do. We're just gonna import for now. I'm gonna import the shape file. Um, I'm not liking how it's filling in. Make it thicker. Just adjusting the line. All right, now that we have the unit boundaries, I've unzipped the burn perimeters, for example. More data, the cattle allotment. So let's get that shape file on. All right, so now we have the burn layer on Google Earth, and you can get that on Onyx maps. And similarly to Onyx, you can click on the burn and you can see what year it happened. Some burns show up on here that are not on Onyx and vice versa. So it's handy to look through and then actually also zoom in and actually physically look at the burns. Next is the cattle allotments that we imported, and you can see where cattle are grazing in the unit. This is New Mexico Unit 16B. We're going to use this one for an example. And you can see on the eastern half of the unit, there's a lot of cattle grazing. And you can click on the cattle grazing section. You can see here, this is a vacant one. So what I would do, I would select this one and make it totally opaque because I know there's no cattle grazing in the unit at that time. All right, this one as well. So that's a good thing. How about here? So that one's vacant as well. So good news to people hunting in Unit 16B. All right, so I'm turning on the Earth Point layer, and you can see this is private land, this is public, and the road comes through here. So I'm not fully sure right now if there's access here, but let's just give it a shot. And you can see, so this side down, so there is a small amount of parking here. And I would give a bet that this is a decent, there's this 4x4 looking road, dirt road, single lane. But reason why I'm calling it pressured, you can see the fencing here. There's some buildings here, so this is a chunk of private land right on the edge of the wilderness boundary. You can see it right here, so Trailland Ranch. Sorry, it's really pixelated. It takes a while for it to download, but I would consider this a pressured area. Another pressured area would be this one here. You can see there's a lot of cattle pens, but I wouldn't say it's like the most pressure, high pressure, whatever you want to call it. Another spot that I'd consider a little bit less pressure, right here, right on the wilderness boundary. You see there's some places to park here. The road goes a little bit of ways in, so there could be a little bit more parking than normal. But the reason why I would say it's pressured is because of this long road of private land, and so there's public land access point over here and up here. So I take those into consideration. Here's another example of a trailhead with a lot of traffic. This is on a unit boundary on one side of the road, and on this other side, there's parking as well. And you can see these nice turnaround, plenty of parking for several trucks and cars. You can see there's even some hiding in the shade. And on this side over here, you'll see like some horse trailers. So even if you make the effort to get out there 6, 8 miles, you're going to be passed by people on horses, and you're going to see other people out there hunting. So it's just something to keep in mind. Here's one last example of a trailhead with a lot of traffic. You can see right here that there is a tent underneath this tree, and the corral pens. You can see back over here more. There's some more wall tents already. This was taken in October of 2019. This is like the main road, and then this road here turns up, and it goes about 4 miles up to the start of the trailhead I showed just a moment ago. And you can see there's an abundance of horse trailers already. This is in September of 2014. We can go back years back, and you can see horse trailers in September 99, 1993, 2011. There's a good amount. This may not have been taken during exactly the hunting season, but there's outfitters out there preparing for the next people coming out to hunt. And you can see there's parking for plenty more people. Now that we picked out a few spots for potential places to go into the backcountry, I'm putting back the layer of cattle allotments. And you see we've filtered out where there are cattle grazing. And you can see the spot that has less pressure possibly has cattle on it at that time of year, and so doesn't this one here. But we're just gonna have to get a little bit of ways from the trailhead to get away from the cattle. So this is another tool I use with Google Earth. You can measure, how far you're gonna have to get away from the cattle area. You're gonna have to get in at least 2 miles to get away from the cattle, and from where it looks like there's more water over here, 3 miles. So another thing we could do is actually draw a circle. So we can click on our spot and draw a radius circle. If you're only wanting to stay a mile from the truck, you are in a spot where there are going to be cattle. If you're willing to go 2 miles, 3 miles, let's say you want to set up like a spike camp 4 miles out. All right, back to the ruler tool, circle. Let's just draw a 4 to 6 mile radius in this area. Inside this radius here is 4 to 6 miles. This whole section is outside of cattle grazing. A little bit less pressure. You may be getting into places where there's possible other horse hunters. All right, so I'm throwing the Topo Map layer on, and you can see there's a pack trail that come through here, but off over in here, there's no pack trails, and there's some nice north-facing slopes. Another canyon of north-facing slopes, so you could work your way from canyon to canyon bugling. A green pin here, that looks like a good spot. You can see there's another trail over here, trail over here, so this is several miles away from others, and looks like there's a pretty high mountain over in here. So this little bowl, I could throw a pin there. That would be a good place to go. But keep in mind, there's this trail behind here, so we're getting a little ways from that trail. So from here and here, this is a pretty good area to work in with less trails from other horses or hunters, let's say. And between these two pins, it's 4.5 miles. So there's plenty of space So we got a couple pins right there. Let's look over here. Let's draw the circles here. The interesting thing is here, we could see that these two areas overlap. So let's try to focus on this area in here. Looks like there's some good north-facing slope looking at the snow here. And I'm not really seeing any trails. It looks like a pretty good burn area. So even right up on the unit boundary, looks like a really good place to get into. So I'm going to throw a few pins here. When glassing, you want to get up higher on the mountain. So let's go back to the actual map. And we can see a lot of it's been burnt down, so for sure you could sit up on this ridge line up here um, and glass from there. All right, so here's another area you could park. Trailhead inside the unit. There are no cattle grazing, but this is a different type of terrain here. This looks to be pinyon juniper just by the small scattered trees. The big thing with pinyon and juniper, especially for elk and mule deer, is where there's water. And on Google Earth or on the Earth Point topo, it'll show you where there are water tanks. Okay, so there's a water tank, and it's off from one of these trails here. You may want to go outside your boundary area, but you can see there's a water tank inside the. I think this is the 4 mile radius I made, so I would definitely mark these water tanks here. But one thing you want to use Google Earth for to look at these water tanks, as you zoom in on them, you can see it looks like this one had dried up. This tank called Mahogany, and let's look at what time of year this image was taken. So this is in February. So in the spring, it looks dry then. It looks so dry there. I'm going to remove this pin. I don't think this would be a good spot. This one looks dry. Not even going to go through the process. How about this way out here? So here's a good water hole, and it shows like in the spring or in the winter. So it shows this water hole does have water probably here in July, but it's possible that uh, it could be dry depending on the time of year. Be wary to chase these water holes here. They do look kind of dry, though there isn't any cattle grazing. You never know. There might be water in some of these other canyons further down, and you can see it right here. Let's go back in time and look at different times of year. Roughly in September, in August, you can see there is water present. So it'd be a little bit more reliable to hunt down, to get down into here and hunt these areas. Looking here, I mean, we could even consider parking on this side of the road and hunting this area over here. But let's, for example, look in this area over here. I'm going to turn off the cattle allotment. And let's look for some good spots. Not seeing much for water. Looks like there's a tank here. It does look in July like there is water. Let's look at a September, August. Looks like there's water. Mavic Trank doesn't look dry in the summer going into hunting season. So let's throw a pin there. It looks like a good one. And now we have a few places to go. We got probably one of our better areas. Over in here looks to be really good in like the dark timber and the burns. Over in here looks to be some areas, you know, where it's more arid, but we got to keep in mind we didn't look at here, so that's like a blind spot. We didn't notice, you know, this road coming here. So from here, you know, we're a little bit closer to the road. You know, we're right at 3 miles, so we could use this area as a parking area to get to this stream here that runs year round. All right, so we've picked out this area here. This is our last spot we're gonna analyze in 16B. possibly for elk. That's what we've been going with, so we'll stick to it. Let's go to the Topo Map, and we can see there's some trails going way back there. Let's get away from the trails. This little mesa here and this little north-facing slope here, this could be a possibly good spot, and it's between some of the trails, so we could throw a pin there. It looks like there's some water here with multiple canyons dropping into this one, so there's water not too far from here. You could camp off from this trail here, get water, then work your way up here and hunt those in the afternoon. Another area looks like a good ways from a couple trails, like over in here, even back here. So we could throw a pin over here. Looks like there's possibly a spring over here, a little bit more of a canyon way back here. Looks like there's a water tank way up here, so that could be a good spot as well. Is a corral there, but let's turn off the earth point. Let's look at the aerial. It looks like a good huge water tank. So let's go back in time to see. All right, so it looks like it's kind of dry, but it could be good enough for a wallow. Who knows? So I wouldn't totally eliminate this water hole. Looks like there's potentially good water from some bedding areas. We can measure out how far. 2 miles, 3 miles. Some more other bedding areas that could be further away. So this looks like a pretty good area to hunt, right on the unit boundary as well. You're a good ways from the road. So I would call this probably one of the better spots. So I would consider this like my number one, my number two-ish, three-ish, 4 or 3 if you consider like the more rugged terrain there, and then this one as well. I would probably try to get away from this road where all the camps are. All right, this wraps up part 1 of e-scouting using Google Earth, and in the next video we are going to cover how to take this data and export it into onX Maps and use the Hunt app while in the field. All right, thank you for coming to my YouTube channel. I ask that you please like this video, comment, and if you are new here, please consider subscribing for more content coming, especially the next video.